People like Imam al-Hakim al-Naysaburi, people like Imam al-Shashi, not Shisha but Imam al-Shashi, Allah al-Musta'an. He was Shashi, so do not contemplate the name of the person. He was among the legends in the fields. He was among the legends in the field. سبق أن الصحيح لذاته ما رواه عدل تام الضبط. It was above discussed. It was discussed previously. أن الصحيح لذاته, that authentic narration based in its nature. Normally, an authentic narration, as how it was discussed previously, ما رواه عدل تام الضبط, is the one that a competent person full of reputation narrated. So if a narration, a report, is narrated or is reported by a personality of which such personality completed all the recommended needs in terms of competency and reputation, so that particular narration can be considered as an authentic narration. And also بسند متصل, it must be in a kind of connecting chain, with a kind of linkage. The isnad should be connected, meaning he must to identify the source of that information. From whom did he source that particular narration? وسلم من الشذوذ والإلة القادحة, and that narration has to be free, must to be free from الشذوذ, conjecture, والإلة القادحة, and hideous defects. So that's the issue, that's the definition. These are the terms. So we are going to discuss the terms one after the other. فالعدالة استقامة الدين والمروءة. Competency in terms of hadith, استقامة الدين والمروءة. استقامة الدين والمروءة is a consistency in religious practices and in moral. So if a person maintains this, he can be considered as al-adil or lahu adala. The person is competent. It is very easy. These are the basic terms to be considered. إذا كان له استقامة في الدين وما عنده مروءة وليس له استقامة في المروءة, هذا لا يكون صاحب عدالة. If he maintain the religious practices, the person is consistent in the practices but lacks moral, the person lacks moral, so that particular person will not be considered as a competent person, although he fulfill the 50% of al-adala, competency. So what does the competency in the practices mean? What does the competency in the morals mean? فاستقامة الدين, if we are mentioning the consistency in the religious practices, what does that mean? أداء الواجبات واجتناب ما يوجب الفسق من المحرمات. أداء الواجبات, accomplishing the obligatory task, the obligatory mandates. واجتناب ما يوجب الفسق, and avoiding whatsoever that will legalize or legitimate or run into indecency. من المحرمات, from the forbidden matters. So if that particular person, that personality maintain this, he would be considered as a person that has the consistency in the practices, meaning the person completed the 50% of competency. So when we are talking about consistency in the religious practices, it doesn't mean that for a person to perform, like for example, the obligatory mandates only. the prayers like the Sawm, the Zakat, for example, all these recommended tasks, all these wajibat, all these mandated tasks, yes indeed, these are evaluated in terms of the istiqamatul deen. But secondly, وَتَرْكُ مَا يُوجَبُ الْفِسْقِ, avoid anything that can trigger or that can prompt a person or that can prompt a person into indecency. من المحرمات, of the forbidden matters. The person is not avoiding kaba'ir zunub, the major sin. So that is a kind of weakness in terms of competency, and that would be looked. That is very vital. It is a kind of indicator. So you have to look into this kind of terms. When a person is considered as a competent person, that particular person must to be consistent in the religious aspects and also in terms of moral. So when we are talking about al-bahath in another aspect, these are considered somehow. Some of the scholars, they said in terms of bahas, it is not necessary to look into these two matters. But the most authentic saying is that even in terms of bahas, in terms of bahas, al-bahath al-ilmi, these are very vital because it helps in understanding the validity of a content or the competency of the content creator. If you look today, many people are creating contents. Many people sell contents. They are just creating contents in order to sell. Some, they don't care whether it is a fake one, it is a kind of defective one, corrupted one. They don't care. They just publish. They just publish. That's not the problem. The problem is into this practice. Did the person maintains the competency? Is the person competent or not? So here in terms of hadith, when we talk about competency, istiqamatul dinu wal muru'ah. That's the meaning of competency. Wastiqamatul muru'ah. When we talk about consistency of morals, consistency of moral, أيفعل ما يحمده الناس عليه, for that particular person to be doing something that people praises him. The people praises that particular person, being him a male or a female, if he is doing a kind of beneficial work, and people recognize that من الآداب والأخلاق, from the ethics and from the conducts, from the ethics and moral. Anything that is related to ethics, that is ethical, anything from the etiquettes, and anything of the good character of that particular person that the people recognizes, وَيَتْرُكُ مَا يَزُمُّهُ النَّاسِ, and such person should be avoiding anything, or is avoiding anything that people can accuse him of. So if the person is like that, he's doing a kind of beneficial work, and the person is not indecent, he try to avoid anything that can get into the dignity of the person, or that can get into his dignity or her dignity. So that would be a kind of fulfillment in terms of istiqamatul maru'ah. ويترك ما يزمه الناس عليه من ذلك, from that. وتعرف عدالة الراوي. The competency of a narrator can be also known بالاستفادة, through beneficial work, through the work that a person delivered to the humanity or delivered to the people. based on the work of the person. You can also evaluate the person whether the person is competent or not. كالأئمة المشهورين, like the popular legends, like the popular legend in this field. If we are talking in another field, there are also legends. So in the hadith, there are legends that are popular in the field. مالك وأحمد والبخاري, like the examples of Malik, Imam Malik bin Anas, Imam Dar al-Hijra, like the example of Ahmed, Imam Ahmed, Abu Abdullah, Ahmed bin Hanbal rahimahullah. Look at the work of Musnad, the book that he published of Musnad, millions of narrations, millions isnad, almost more than 40,000 ahadith, more than 40,000 text the person published in the book. That is without the reputation, including the reputations of the matins, some of the text. Then the Musnad is more than that. It contains numerous ahadith. Based on the tahqiq, you would see more than 40,000. As for the work of Imam Malik, like the Muwatta, one of the popular book, up to the extent that Shafi'i rahimahullah was reported to have said the most authentic book after the book of Allah is the Muwatta. But that statement was a prior statement before the publication of Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So likewise, the example of Imam al-Bukhari, he did a work like his publication of the Sahih al-Bukhari, around 7,000 hadith, for example. So based on the beneficial work, a person can be evaluated. So based on that, you can definitely testify that the person is competent or not. وَنَحْوِهِمْ, and their examples, like Shafi'i rahimahullah, like Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Imam al-Awza'i, Imam al-A'mash, Waki' ibn Jarrah, Imam al-A'mash, Sulaiman bin Mahran, people like Abu Zur'at al-Razi, Abi Hatim al-Razi, Abi Dawud al-Sajastani, Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, people like Imam al-Bazzar, for example, Ibn Abi Shayba, Abdullah ibn Abi Shayba, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba, people like Imam al-Hakim al-Naysaburi, people like Imam al-Shashi, not Shisha but Imam al-Shashi, Allahu al-Musta'an. He was Shashi, so do not contemplate the name of the person. He was among the legends in the fields. He was among the legends in the field. So many examples that we can mention. Everyone knows about Nasa'i. Everyone knows about Tabarani. Mu'jam al-Kabir, Mu'jam al-Saghir, Mu'jam al-Awsat. You know, he has did something. So if you want to be recognized as a competent person, you must do something that benefit people. Your life is valuable, your time is valuable, so you need to do something to benefit the people if you want to be recognizable, or if you want to get recognized. So these are some of the factors that people recognize people with it. Publication is one of it. Any work. There are other parameters that can be looked, for example, not necessarily publication, but publication is one of the vital in terms of knowledge. We're not talking in the field of knowledge. وبالنص عليها, or giving a kind of statement or quotation of the competency of the person مما يعتبر قوله في ذلك, that the person's statement can be reliable on that. The person's information is reliable. So when one of the competent person gave that kind of reference, he gave a reference to another person by mentioning that such person provide authentic contents. And that's why you would see even the ulama of today, they are given ijaza, for example, and they praises one another. So these are some of the points that you should be able to understand when we are talking about al-istiqama, when we are talking about al-adala. وتمام الضبط, when we talk about full of reputation, what is reputation in the field? أيعدي ما يحمله من مسموع, for a person to deliver whatsoever he sourced from listening, whatsoever he listened. As far as you listen, you can source an information from listening. For example, like today there are lots of audio books. So if you source information from an audio, so you shall deliver the information as how you source it. So if a person become like this, then the person can be a person with a reputation, meaning the person is not amalgamating salt and sugar. The person maintain that value, the value of the content. Like today, some of the reporters, some of the people who deliver information, they don't consider this. They would source a kind of information and they would manipulate the information and deliver to the masses, to the public, without retaining the quality of the information. The more you change the information, the more you interfere with the quality of the information, and the more the people will understand that particular information in another way. And that's the reason why you should maintain this. Otherwise, you will lack reputation at any field. If you want to source an information, try as such to deliver the information as that. Even in terms of research, when you research about something, try as much as possible to make sure that you publish what you have seen, what you had seen, or you publish what you observed. أو مرئي, or from the observation. The reporter observed something, so he shall make sure that he deliver that information as how the person observed. على الوجه الذي يحمله, in the mode, in the format that the person sourced the information, من غير زيادة, without increment ولا نقص or decrement. لكن لا يدور خطأ يسير. A minor mistake is not a problem. It cannot affect the quality of the information. Like maybe a change of alphabet, like the example of the riwayat, narrations of Waki. Waki was denoted as a person that has issues with regards to lugha. regards to the Arabiya. So when you are dealing with the narration of Waqi, you have to be careful with the alphabets. So likewise, when you source an information, if you made a kind of mistake, and that's why even in the narration, a reporter would say like this or like that. He would mention a word and he would say, oh, like that. Like today, most of the report that we see is from the publications, from the media, are based on interpretation. A reporter is supposed to report the information as how he sourced the information or as how she sourced that information, without increment or decrement, without interpretation or editing. The more you edit, the more you clear something. Maybe you add something or you decrease something. So don't filter the information, that's the best in terms of report. And that's why you would see the hadith, something that you did not expect it to listen, to see, or to, like for example, come across and would be mentioned. Imagine even the happenings that took place in the home of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam were reported, maybe by the wife or by any person who the person was present, the person who was present at that particular instant. And they are not, or they were not changing the information. They deliver as how they sourced the information. That's why they live a kind of harmonious living. They live in peace. Today, the reason why life become complicated to so many people is because of this unnecessary editing, unnecessary filtering, and unnecessary interpretation. Just better for the person to deliver or to publish whatsoever he sourced as how it was. Do not add numbers and do not add words. It's better for the people to understand your points. لأنه لا يسلم منه أحد, because nobody is free from making a minor mistake. Maybe a kind of tongue twist can happen when the person is reporting the information. So that's it. واتصال السند. The next point of our discussion is اتصال السند, the linkage of the narration, the channel, the connection. It must be connected. Like a person report a particular information, when he is asked, from whom did you source this information, or where do you source the information, he said, I don't know, or I made a dream, or for example, someone taught me. Who is that particular person that taught you or that informed you? He said it's so person, without mentioning the personality or a stranger. So if the narration come in this way, it cannot be determined as a kind of authentic narration. So, and that's how the issues are evaluated. So we should try to understand this point. So we discuss about two terms in the definition of authentic narration: competency and reputation. Competency and full of reputation. العدالة أي بمعنى استقامة الدين والمروءة وتمام الضبط, full of reputation. We also discuss about that. So based on this few explanation, we would be able to benefit with some of the points that we mentioned. One of it is the consistency. Consistency in the affairs. In any aspect, be consistent. Do it by heart. Put more effort. A lot of hard working. And secondly, in terms of academics, there is need for publication. But don't publish a kind of vulgar. For example, a kind of unimportant information. Maybe something that was already done by someone. So what is the benefit of you publishing? It is just as if you are repeating or repetition. For example, there is no problem with the repetition as far as the reference is maintained. For example, and this doesn't mean that for you to create values or to create numbers or to create context. No, there are some aspects of knowledge that are not to be updated. They are already updated. They are original sources. For example, yes, you can derive a hukum. You can derive a kind of rule from the original source or the primary source. I hope this point is clear. And something that can determine your competency is your beneficial work and your position in the community. Did people realize or recognize your work or not? So likewise, these points are to be highly understood. Otherwise, the narration or the information of a person cannot be a qualitative one. And supposed to be, we are working by these terms. We would get free from so many conflicts. We would get free from so many problems. But people are not giving heed in these matters. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.